Today we're going to be diving into the Risk Killer AI Expert Advisor. So for this EA, the developer actually reached out to me to say, hey, can you please make a review of my bot and say what you'd like. So I always like to tell people when developers reach out to me, just in the interest of transparency, but also if people have a bot which looks interesting and they want me to do a review, they can simply drop me an email, and if it looks cool, I'll just go in and I'll check it out, particularly if it looks like something where there might be a real strategy there. But I never accept any sort of payment or free bots from anybody because I prefer to be as impartial as possible. So here at the Risk Killer, it looks interesting because it seems to be a bot which is genuinely using artificial intelligence in the right way to use it. And particularly, it's combining a classic trading strategy, which in my opinion is more of a high risk reward breakout strategy, with more of like an AI filter. And specifically here, they're using the Grok model, which I believe has active web search enabled, to be able to act as a risk manager for the trading strategy. And from my reading of the sales page here, I think that they're essentially looking at sentiment analysis of Twitter pretty much to determine if it's a risk on day or more of a risk off day, and adjust position sizing accordingly. So one thing to note here is I think Christoph might not be on the marketplace right now as of today, but hopefully he's back on soon because who knows what happened there. But I think I can still do the EA review because I'm not sure if you're still able to buy it, but I wouldn't be surprised if you still can. So anyway, back to the actual strategy. As it says here in the title, this is a breakout scalping algorithm based on key levels. And it does this essentially to identify high risk reward trades. And because of that, it is trading more of the breakout style assets where it's on Bitcoin, gold, yen pairs, S&P, and it's also trading the Euro USD, which could be because we've recently been seeing some pretty significant trends in the Euro USD with all the tariff volatility. But I'm not so sure if long term that's probably going to be the ideal asset for this type of system. However, it's good that you can trade multiple, as you can always turn on or off different strategies. And it appears to be both a long and short style bot. And yeah, it seems to, each trade has a stop loss and take profit for more robust risk management. So no crazy grid martingales happening here. And he also made a point of sharing an article, which I read previously, on his backtesting approach and what the steps he takes to avoid overfitting. And all of that is very good to see, particularly with more purely technical analysis based strategies. It's very easy to overfit. So if the developer actually goes out of his way to show you how you would go about properly optimizing a bot, that can be quite helpful for us to make our trading decisions. And we can flip through here. We can see that he did make a video. He also has a YouTube channel where he walks through some of his bots. And we can indeed see that he's running more of a portfolio approach. And it looks like he's doing that in Python. But so far, it's looking pretty solid. We can flip over here to the live signal. We can see that he's been running it for a few months by now on a fairly modest risk. May here was a big driver of returns, but it's also simply because that's what the market did. We know we had some massive volatility in May, and this included some major reversals, which was likely very, very beneficial for any sort of breakout style strategy. But the equity curve is looking good. There's a mix of winners and losers in there. And if we look at the statistics, we can see that it is matching what he says it's doing. We are seeing a positive risk reward with almost a 2-to-1 here, with a plus 50% win rate, which is really solid. And all of that is looking actually very good. So from what I can see so far, and it's running on IC markets, that's looking like a good live signal to me. I also went in and flipped through his website a bit, so you can kind of go check out some of his videos. But so far, looking pretty solid. So what I then did is I went and I ran a back test on the Expert Advisor on MT5. And here in the back test, you actually have to go and specify the different symbols for your broker. And here I added the suffixes I, because I'm running those on 8-cap, and I made the different symbols match. And from the installation guide, which you showed me, you're able to toggle risk on and or risk off. And the backtest is looking solid. This is what I would expect to see with more of this style of system. He is capitalizing on the big rally of Bitcoin to make a pretty to get these really, really good returns. So one thing to note is that like the market environment, particularly with Bitcoin, has been good for this as of late. So that is something you should consider when looking at historical performance. Like, was this performance good because of the regime? And going forward, will we see similar performance? But that doesn't mean it's not a robust strategy. And I also ran a back test here. He said to run it on the M1, so I did, but then I just zoomed out to run it on, to see how it looks on the H1. And it does indeed look like a breakout system and with higher risk reward. So once again, there's a key level here and there's a break. So he's using some sort of filter or some sort of trigger to identify key levels. Here's the example of a losing trade where it stopped out. And this type of system will typically do really well in more like trending market environments. So if you have a very choppy period of consolidation, it won't generally do as well. So overall, it's looking like a real bot, in my opinion. It's looking very good. To touch on the AI aspect, he actually does give you an XAI API key in the installation guide. So he does give you the ability to use the Grok API. So there is a real use of AI here, in my opinion. But whether or not, like how exactly he's setting it up or what prompts he's using, we would need to be able to run it in more detail. And what I would always encourage people to do, and like I have AI and sentiment analysis, LLMs used in some of my bots too, and the issue with them is you just can't backtest them. So ultimately what you have to do is you have to just run it forward tested on some accounts with AI filters turned on and without AI filters on other accounts. And then you can pretty much just contrast the performance. I personally use Perplexity because it's a great news API, but I've heard good things about Grok. Claude has, the new Claude 4 also has some settings which enable you to use live web search. So there's definitely something there. And it's definitely taking its time. I'm not seeing any hard-coded indicators. Here we go, so there's pending orders. So buy stops on this one for Bitcoin. So yes, this is a classic expert advisor style strategy where you have buy stops and sell stops. Let me just see if he's using if he's using a trailing stop loss or if he's using more of a just like a fixed stop loss or take profit. That's one variation which you can sometimes see with this style of bot. But the whole thing of like placing pending orders somewhere, let's just see if he's hitting stop loss or if he's actually using a trailing stop loss here. Nope, he has TPs as well. Interesting. Okay, let's slow down a bit to see perhaps he's doing something a bit different. Okay, not that slow. And he's dynamically adjusting the levels as time goes on. So yes, guys, this is a real strategy. It's very tried and tested. He might be using a tight trailing stop loss there too. Let me just see if he's modifying stop loss. Done, buy stop, order expired. Nope, there doesn't appear to be any stop loss modification in the tab. So it could very well be that just like placing pending orders with the take profit and stop loss. I could be missing something, but it does appear that he's not modifying the stop loss, which usually is a sign of a trailing stop loss. So it's very interesting. So real strategy, many people do strategies which are based on this general premise, but he has kind of gone above the basic one by implementing more of a sentiment analysis filter, running multiple pairs, and I'm sure there's nuances to how he detects his levels, which might be a bit different than some other developers with this style of system. But this is a tried and tested trading strategy. Breakout of key levels, it's a classic, it works well, he seems like a good guy. So yeah, definitely something worth looking into and continue to follow. So guys, hope you enjoyed the video and I will see you in the next one.